The first time Emma Carter saw Dante Russo, he was standing behind the counter of her flower shop like he had been born there. Like every rose, every ribbon, every fragile glass vase already belonged to him. Outside, Chicago was drowning in rain. Water slid down the front windows of Carter Blooms in silver sheets, blurring the red neon sign across the street and the black SUVs parked along the curb. Not one SUV, not two. 5 of them, lined up like a funeral procession. Men in dark suits stood beneath black umbrellas. Their faces turned toward the street, their hands folded in front of them with the stillness of statues. They were not customers. They were not police. They were the kind of men people cross the street to avoid. Emma stopped in the doorway, one hand still wrapped around her keys, the other gripping the strap of her worn canvas bag. Her flower shop smelled the way it always did after closing. Damp petals, fresh soil, eucalyptus, and the soft sweetness of white lilies. But tonight, there was something else beneath it. Expensive cologne, cold air, power. The man behind her counter looked up. He was tall, dressed in a black suit that fit like a warning. His dark hair was combed back, his face carved in hard lines, his eyes calm in a way that made her stomach tighten. He did not look surprised to see her. Emma knew him before anyone said his name. Everyone in Chicago knew Dante Russo. You did not need to be part of his world to feel the edge of it. His name moved through the city in whispers. Restaurants that cleared tables when he arrived, judges who avoided his cases, businessmen who smiled too quickly in his presence, men who crossed him and disappeared from public life without explanation. He was the man no one touched, and he was standing in her flower shop, one hand resting beside her old brass register. Emma forced herself to breathe. "This is private property," she said. Dante Russo looked around slowly, as if tasting the words. "Not anymore." Her fingers tightened around her keys. "Excuse me?" He reached into the inside pocket of his suit jacket and placed a folded document on the counter. The movement was smooth, unhurried, almost elegant. "I bought the building." For a moment, the rain seemed to swallow every sound in the room. Emma stared at the paper, then at him, then at the men outside. "No," she said. His expression did not change. "Yes. You can't just buy my building overnight." "I can. This shop is mine." "The business is yours," he said. "The walls are mine." Something hot rose in her chest. She had spent 6 years building Carter Blooms from nothing. 6 years waking before dawn to buy flowers at the market, arranging funeral wreaths with shaking hands, delivering wedding bouquets to women who still believed love was simple. 6 years hiding behind petals and ribbon because flowers did not ask questions. And now this man, this beautiful monster in a tailored suit, had walked in and bought the ground under her feet. "Get out," she said. One of the men near the door shifted. Dante did not. He only studied her, and there was something unsettling in his gaze. Not amusement exactly, not anger, recognition. "The shop stays open," he said. "You keep your name on the door. You keep your staff, your suppliers, your hours." Emma laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. "How generous of you, but no one enters without my permission." The sentence landed colder than the rain. Emma stepped closer to the counter. "You don't get to decide who comes into my shop. I already have. You think because people are scared of you, I will be too?" His eyes lowered briefly to her trembling hand, then back to her face. "You are scared," he said softly, "but not of me." Emma went still. For 6 years, she had practiced hiding. She hid fear beneath politeness, exhaustion beneath lipstick, nightmares beneath early mornings, and flower orders. She hid the past so deeply that even her own reflection sometimes looked like a stranger. No one noticed. This man noticed in less than 5 minutes. "Angaseutia." Emma walked around the counter so fast one of his guards moved forward. But Dante lifted one finger, and the guard froze. She stopped inches from him. "You don't know me." Dante's gaze stayed on hers. "I know enough." Her hand moved before she thought. The slap cracked through the flower shop like thunder. Every man in the room went rigid. Outside the windows, the bodyguards turned. Emma's palm stung. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She had just slapped Dante Russo in front of his men. For one long second, no one breathed. Dante's face had turned slightly from the impact. Slowly, he brought his eyes back to hers. Emma expected rage. She expected violence. She expected the kind of punishment men like him were famous for. Instead, The corner of his mouth lifted. Not a smile, exactly. A fracture. Like something frozen inside him had moved for the first time in years. My men will respect you now, he said. Emma stared at him, thrown completely off balance. You're insane. Probably. Why are you doing this? The almost smile vanished. Dante looked toward the rain-streaked window, toward the dark vehicles outside, toward the city beyond. Then he said, because someone put a price on your life tonight. The words emptied the room of air. Emma's anger did not disappear. It turned cold. That's not funny. I don't joke about death. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Who? Dante's eyes returned to her. You already know. No, I don't. Yes, he said quietly. You do. You just spent 6 years pretending you didn't. Emma took one step back. There it was, the past, rising from its grave. Her father's face flashed through her mind. Daniel Carter. Always smelling of tobacco and gardenias. Always keeping 2 phones. Always locking the basement door when she came downstairs. The night he died, the men in the alley, the blood on white chrysanthemums. The way he had pressed a brass key into her hand and whispered, never sell the shop. She had been 22. She had run. She had buried him. She had reopened the shop with the key hidden in a ceramic pot behind the roses, and told herself survival was the same thing as freedom. Dante watched every emotion cross her face. That made her hate him more. Get out, she whispered. No. I said get out. And I said no. Emma grabbed the folded document from the counter and threw it at his chest. You don't get to walk into my life and decide you're my protector. Dante caught the paper before it fell. His voice dropped. I don't want to be your protector, Emma. The sound of her name in his mouth made something inside her lock into place. Then what do you want? For the first time, Dante Russo looked away. That scared her more than his stare. I want to know what your father hid before Enzo Belladonna finds it. At the name, the room seemed to darken. Even Emma knew Belladonna. The rival family. The old money. The Sicilian bloodline. The men who owned judges and buried secrets beneath churches. The Belladonnas had been at war with the Russos for longer than Emma had been alive. Her father had once told her never to accept flowers from a man with a red carnation in his lapel. She had been too young to understand. Now Dante Russo stood in front of her, and she understood too late. I don't know anything, she said. Dante's gaze sharpened. Then we have a problem. A sharp noise cracked from the street. Emma flinched. The front window exploded inward. Glass burst across the flower shop in a glittering storm. Vases shattered. Roses scattered. One of Dante's men grabbed Emma from the side, but Dante moved faster. He crossed the space between them and slammed his body over hers, forcing her down behind the counter as another shot tore through the lilies above them. The shop filled with shouting. Men moved like shadows. Emma's cheek pressed against the cold tile. Dante's arm was braced beside her head, his body covering hers completely. She could feel the heat of him, the hard line of his chest, the controlled violence in the way he breathed. She should have pushed him away. She didn't. For one impossible second, beneath gunfire and broken flowers, Dante looked down at her as if everything outside the circle of his body had ceased to exist. Now, he said softly, you're going to listen. A third shot shattered the old clock above the doorway. Dante's eyes changed. The calm stayed, but something beneath it woke up. Take her out the back, he ordered. No, Emma gasped. This is my shop. His mouth tightened. Not tonight. 2 men lifted her before she could fight. She kicked, twisted, shouted, but Dante moved with them through the storage room, past buckets of peonies and half-open boxes of ribbon, toward the narrow back door that led into the alley. Rain hit her face like cold needles. The alley was flooded, reflecting red and blue from distant police lights that had not yet reached them. A black SUV waited with its door open. Emma dug her heels into the pavement. I am not getting in that car. Dante turned. The rain soaked his suit, slicked his hair darker, ran down the side of his face, where her slap had left a faint mark. You can hate me in the car, he said. I don't trust you. You shouldn't. The honesty stunned her. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. But tonight, every man who wants you dead is behind us. I'm in front of you. Choose. A shout came from the end of the alley. Dante looked past her. His face went empty. Then he wrapped one hand around Emma's waist and pulled her into the SUV himself. The door slammed. The vehicle shot forward into the rain. Emma looked back through the rear window and saw her flower shop shrinking behind them, its front windows broken, roses scattered across the floor, like something had bled color into the dark. Dante sat beside her, silent. His men filled the front seats. Another SUV followed close behind. Emma pressed herself against the door, shaking with anger and adrenaline. "Where are you taking me?" "A safe place." "I have a home." "No," Dante said. "You have an address. There's a difference." She turned on him. "How do you know where I live?" He did not answer. Her stomach dropped. "How long have you been watching me?" His eyes stayed on the road ahead. "Long enough." "That is not an answer. It's the only one you get right now." Emma laughed bitterly. "So you stalked me? Bought my building? Filled my shop with armed men? And now I'm supposed to be grateful?" "No." "Good. I don't need your gratitude." "Then what do you need?" Dante looked at her then. The city lights cut across his face in passing lines of gold and shadow. "I need you alive." The words were not romantic. They were not gentle. They sounded like an order he had given the universe. Emma turned away before he could see how badly they landed. The SUV drove north through Chicago, away from the familiar streets of her shop, past towers of glass and wet concrete, into a world Emma had only seen from a distance. They arrived at a private underground garage beneath a luxury building near the river. No signs. No lobby. Just steel doors, cameras, guards, and silence. Dante led her through a private elevator that rose so smoothly she barely felt it move. When the doors opened, Emma stepped into another life. The penthouse was enormous, dark, and impossibly quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, where rain turned Chicago into a blur of gold, black, and silver. The furniture was expensive but cold. Black marble. Leather. Low lighting. No family photographs. No books left open. No sign that anyone truly lived there. It was not a home. It was a fortress with a view. Emma stood dripping on the marble floor. Dante removed his soaked jacket and handed it to a man at the door. "Find out who fired at the shop. No police reports. No noise." The man nodded and left. Emma wrapped her arms around herself. "You're not calling the police?" Dante turned slowly. Something in his expression made her feel naive. "The police will arrive after the bodies are gone and the cameras stop working." She looked away. He walked toward a bar built into the wall, poured water into a glass, and set it on the table between them. "Drink. I don't take orders." "You do when you're shaking." "I'm not shaking." He glanced at her hands. She hid them behind her back. Dante did not mock her. That bothered her more. "I need to see the key," he said. Emma's breath caught. "What key?" "The one your father gave you." Her whole body went cold. Dante noticed. "Of course he did. You don't have to speak," he said. "Your face already answered." Emma backed away from him. "How do you know about that?" "Daniel Carter worked for men who did not forgive loose ends. My father was a florist." "No," Dante said quietly. "Your father was a bookkeeper who used flowers as a curtain." The word bookkeeper struck harder than gunfire. Emma remembered her father counting cash in the basement. The locked drawers. The strange men who came after closing. The way he would smile too brightly when she asked questions. "You're lying." "I wish I were." "Why?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Because your father kept records that can destroy Enzo Belladonna, half the city council, and one member of my own family." Emma stared at him. "There it is," she whispered. "That's why you're here. Not because you care whether I live. You want what he hid." Dante said nothing. The silence was answer enough. Something inside her cracked. Of course, the dangerous man did not rescue the broken florist because she mattered. He had rescued a map, a key, a problem wrapped in skin. Emma moved toward the elevator. Dante stepped into her path. "Move." "No. I'm not staying here." "Yes, you are. You can't keep me prisoner." Dante's gaze lowered to her mouth for the briefest second, then returned to her eyes. "Don't test what I can do." The air changed between them. It was not just fear. It was proximity, heat, anger. The strange intimacy of being almost touched by someone who had just saved her life and might ruin it anyway. Emma lifted her chin. "If you wanted a frightened woman who would obey you, you picked the wrong florist." A flicker passed through his eyes. "There's nothing wrong with being frightened." "I know. Then stop pretending you aren't." She hated him for seeing that, hated the softness buried inside the brutality of his words. "My father died because of men like you," she said. Dante's face hardened. "No. Your father died because he trusted the wrong one." "Was it you?" The question hung there. Dante did not flinch. "No. Prove it. I can't. Then I believe nothing you say. He nodded once, as if accepting a sentence he deserved. Good. Emma blinked. Good? Belief makes people careless. Doubt keeps them alive. That night, Emma did not sleep. Dante gave her a guest room larger than her entire apartment. There was a bathroom of white stone, a closet filled with clothes that were not hers but somehow fit, and a lock on the door. She checked it 3 times. It locked from the inside. That should have made her feel safer. It didn't. She sat on the edge of the bed until dawn, still wearing her damp sweater, the brass key her father had given her pressed between her fingers. She had kept it on a chain beneath her clothes for 6 years. She had never used it, never wanted to. Now it felt alive in her palm. At sunrise, Emma opened the bedroom door and found Dante standing in the hallway. He had changed into a black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. He looked like he had not slept either. I need to go to my apartment, she said. No, my cat is there. Dante paused. For the first time, he looked genuinely unprepared. You have a cat? Yes. What's its name? Knife. His brow lifted slightly. She was very aggressive when I adopted her. That explains your friendship. Emma almost smiled. Almost. Then she remembered the broken glass in her shop and hated herself for the impulse. Dante looked toward one of his men. Send someone. No, Emma said. Knife hates strangers. She'll survive. She hides in the kitchen cabinet when she's scared. Dante looked back at her. Something quiet shifted behind his eyes. Fine, he said. We go together. The ride to her apartment was silent. Her building was a narrow brick walk-up above a laundromat, 3 blocks from the flower shop. When they arrived, Dante's men moved first. Emma hated the way neighbors stared from windows, hated the way her ordinary life looked surrounded by black cars and guns under coats. Inside her apartment, everything looked untouched. Small kitchen. Second-hand couch. Stacks of floral invoices. A mug in the sink. A gray cat, glaring from the top of the refrigerator. Knife, Emma whispered. The cat blinked. Dante stood in the doorway, too large for the space, too polished for the chipped paint and mismatched furniture. Emma grabbed the carrier from the closet and coaxed Knife down with treats. You live like this? Dante asked. She looked at him sharply. Like what? Unprotected. I call it normal. No locks on the windows, no camera. Fire escape accessible from the alley. I sell flowers. I don't run an empire. You inherited a war. I inherited debt, grief, and a shop with a leaking ceiling. Dante said nothing. She turned away, angry at the sudden pressure in her throat. While she packed food for Knife, Dante moved through the apartment, looking without touching. His gaze stopped at the small table by the window. A vase sat there with 3 white roses. Emma watched him notice. I bring home flowers that don't sell, she said defensively. Those sold. She frowned. What? White Vendella roses. You sold out yesterday before noon. Emma stared at the vase. He was right. She remembered now. The bucket had been empty. She had laughed with Mrs. Alvarez about it. Her skin prickled. I didn't put those there. Dante's expression changed instantly. He stepped in front of her before she could move closer. Don't touch them. He lifted his hand, and one of his men came forward with gloves. The roses were removed carefully. Beneath the vase was a card. Don't you read it? His face went still. Emma's voice came out thin. What does it say? He hesitated. Dunch. He handed her the card. Black ink. Elegant handwriting. Your father should have burned with his secrets. Emma's knees weakened. Dante caught her elbow before she fell. The contact was firm, warm, startling. She looked down at his hand. So did he. For 1 second, he seemed almost angry at himself for touching her. Then he let go. We're leaving, he said. This time, Emma did not argue. But when they reached the hallway, a woman stood at the top of the stairs. She was beautiful in a sharp, expensive way, wearing a cream coat and red lipstick that looked wrong under the flickering apartment light. Her eyes moved over Emma with cold assessment before landing on Dante. So this is the florist. Dante's face closed. Valentina. Emma looked between them. Friend of yours? The woman smiled. Almost family. Dante's voice turned lethal. You shouldn't be here. I came to warn you. Valentina stepped closer, her heels clicking softly. The council is asking questions. You bought a building in a civilian district, moved armed men into a flower shop, and started a street war before breakfast. For her? Emma felt the insult before it was fully spoken. Dante did not look at Emma. Yes. The single word stunned the hallway into silence. Valentina's smile tightened. She must be very important. She is under my protection. Protection is one thing, Valentina said. Obsession is another. Emma's heart struck hard against her ribs. Dante moved so fast the air shifted. He stopped just close enough to make Valentina's confidence flicker. Choose your next words carefully. Valentina's eyes narrowed. Then she looked past him at Emma. Ask him what happened to the last woman he protected. Dante went motionless. Emma noticed. Valentina smiled like she had drawn blood. Then she walked past them down the stairs, leaving behind the faint scent of expensive perfume and poison. Emma waited until they were back in the SUV. Who was she? No one. Liar. Dante looked out the window. Emma held Knife's carrier in her lap. The cat hissed softly, as if she agreed. What happened to the last woman you protected? His jaw worked once. Drop it. No. His eyes cut to hers. She should have stopped. She didn't. You know everything about my father, my apartment, my shop, my cat. But I ask one question, and suddenly I'm supposed to be quiet. Dante leaned closer. The air between them tightened. You want the truth? Fine. Her name was Lucia. She was my fiancée. I thought I could keep her safe. I was wrong. Lucia. Emma's anger faltered. Dante's eyes were dark and merciless, but not toward her. Toward himself. She died because my enemies learned there was someone I cared about. The SUV hummed beneath them. Rain traced crooked lines down the glass. Emma's voice softened despite herself. I'm sorry. Don't be. You loved her? Dante looked away. I failed her. That was not an answer. Or maybe it was the only one he knew how to give. Back at the penthouse, the mood had changed. Men moved in and out of Dante's office. Phones rang. Names were spoken quietly. Belladonna. Counsel. Shipment. Ledger. Betrayal. Emma sat at the kitchen island with Knife exploring cautiously under the stools. Dante disappeared behind a glass door for 2 hours. When he emerged, his sleeves were rolled higher, his expression colder. We're going to the shop. Emma stood immediately. Why? Because the message in your apartment means they believe the ledger is still there. My shop was shot up last night, and today it will be searched. By you? By us. She hated the us. Hated that part of her wanted it. Carter Blooms looked wounded in daylight. Plywood covered the shattered front window. Police tape had been removed before the police could properly use it. The floor had been swept, but tiny pieces of glass still glittered beneath the shelves. Red roses lay bruised in a trash bin. The clock above the door hung crooked and dead. Emma stepped inside and felt something inside her fold. Dante stayed behind her, silent. My father built those shelves, she said, staring at the back wall. He used to say flowers made people honest. Weddings, funerals, apologies. People buy flowers when they can't say what they mean. Dante's voice was low. And what do you buy? Emma turned. He was closer than she expected. I don't. Why? She looked at the ruined roses. Because flowers die. He studied her. Then softly, everything does. It should have sounded cruel. Instead, it sounded like confession. They searched the basement first. The basement smelled of dust, damp stone, and old soil. Emma had avoided it for years. She came down only to reset breakers or retrieve stored vases. Her father's old workbench still stood against the far wall. The drawers were locked. The walls were lined with shelves of clay pots and cracked ceramic planters. Dante examined everything with controlled precision. Emma stood in the center of the room, the brass key warm under her shirt. Use it, he said. She looked at him. He nodded toward the locked drawers. She pulled the chain from beneath her sweater and lifted the key. Dante's gaze dropped to it. Something passed across his face, not greed, not triumph. Recognition. You've seen it before, she said. Once. Where? A photograph taken the night your father died. Emma swallowed. The key slid into the first drawer. It opened. Inside were old receipts, flower order books, a silver pen, and a photograph of Emma as a child standing between her parents in the shop. Her mother's face had been cut out. Emma's breath caught. My mother left when I was 7, she said. Dante said nothing. She picked up the photo with trembling fingers. Behind it was a second key. Smaller. Black. Dante moved closer. Emma looked at him. What does this open? Before he could answer, footsteps sounded above them. Dante's hand moved to his side. Emma froze. A voice called from the shop floor. "Miss Carter?" It was soft, male, familiar. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Bell?" Dante looked at her. "He's an old customer," she whispered. "He buys carnations every Friday." Dante's expression sharpened. "Red carnations?" Emma's blood turned cold. Above them, the floor creaked. Mr. Bell called again. "I know you're down there, dear." Dante pushed Emma behind him. The basement door opened. Mr. Bell stood at the top of the stairs, wearing his usual brown coat and kind smile. But there was a red carnation pinned to his lapel. Emma's mind refused to accept it. He had brought her tea after her father's funeral. He had told her the shop was the heart of the neighborhood. He had bought flowers for a wife who, she now realized, might never have existed. "Step away from her, Russo," Mr. Bell said. Dante's voice was ice. "Enzo sends old men now." Mr. Bell smiled sadly. "Old men are invisible. That makes us useful." Emma's fingers tightened around the black key. Mr. Bell saw it. His smile faded. "Your father was a fool," he said to her. "He could have made everyone rich. Instead, he hid behind flowers and sentiment." Emma's voice shook. "You knew him?" "I watched him die." The basement tilted. Dante moved, but Mr. Bell lifted a small remote in his hand. "Careful," the old man said. "There is enough fire wired beneath this shop to turn every rose upstairs into ash." Emma stopped breathing. Dante's face remained calm, but his eyes had changed again. The monster had stepped closer to the surface. "Give me the key, Emma," Mr. Bell said, "and I'll let you walk out." Dante did not look at her. "Don't." Mr. Bell laughed softly. "He doesn't care about you. He cares about the ledger. Ask him what name is on the final page." Emma turned slowly toward Dante. The silence gave her answer before he did. "What name?" she whispered. Dante's jaw tightened. Mr. Bell's smile returned. "Russo." Emma stepped back from Dante. "No," he said. "You knew," she said. "I knew there was a possibility. You knew my father had evidence against your family." "Yes, and you didn't tell me." Dante's eyes held hers. "I needed you alive before I needed you informed." The words struck like betrayal because part of her understood them. Mr. Bell took one step down. "Men like him always choose power, Emma. Your father learned that too late." Dante's voice dropped. "If you take another step, I'll break every bone you have left." Mr. Bell sighed. Still dramatic. Then the lights went out. The basement plunged into darkness. Emma screamed as someone grabbed her from behind. Dante shouted her name. A struggle erupted in the dark, heavy bodies. A grunt, a crash of pottery. Emma twisted, clawed, kicked. The black key tore from her hand. Someone dragged her toward the stairs. She caught one flash of emergency light from above and saw Dante fighting through two men who must have entered from the back alley. His eyes found hers. For the first time, she saw fear in them. Not anger. Fear. "Emma!" A cloth pressed over her mouth. The world blurred. The last thing she saw was Dante reaching for her through the dark, and the last thing she heard was Mr. Bell's voice. "Now he'll burn the city to get you back." Emma woke to the smell of salt water and smoke. For a few moments, she did not know where she was. The room was dim, lit by a single lamp swinging gently from the ceiling. Her wrists were tied in front of her with silk ribbon, expensive, absurd, and tight. Rain battered windows somewhere nearby. The floor moved slightly beneath her. A boat. No, not a boat. A private yacht. She was in a cabin with polished wood walls, cream leather seats, and a vase of red carnations on the table. Emma's stomach turned. The door opened. Enzo Belladonna entered like a man walking into dinner. He was older than Dante, silver-haired, elegant, with the relaxed confidence of someone who had never been denied anything that mattered. "Mr. Bell followed behind him, no longer kind, no longer stooped. "Miss Carter," Enzo said warmly, "your father had your eyes." Emma forced herself upright. "Where am I?" "Somewhere Dante Russo cannot reach easily." She looked at the red carnations. "You're going to kill me. Only if you make that necessary. My father hid something from you. Your father hid everything from everyone." Enzo sat across from her. He believed information made him powerful. It made him dead. Emma swallowed. "I don't have your ledger." "No," Enzo said. but you are the only person Daniel trusted enough to build the lock around. She frowned. Enzo leaned forward. The ledger is not paper. It is not a book. It is a coded account, hidden in a private vault. Your key opens the physical chamber. Your memory opens the code. My memory? He smiled. What song did your father sing when he worked in the basement? Emma went still. A song, low and old, in Italian, though her father had never spoken Italian around her. She remembered humming it while sweeping pedals. She remembered him tapping rhythms against the counter. She had thought it was nothing. Enzo saw recognition and smiled wider. There she is. I don't remember. You will. The yacht rocked beneath them. Somewhere above, men shouted. Enzo's smile faded. A distant explosion of sound cracked through the night. Not an explosion. A collision. The cabin lights flickered. Mr. Bell rushed to the door. What was that? Enzo stood. Another impact slammed the yacht hard enough to send the carnations crashing to the floor. Emma heard gunfire above deck. Then screaming. Then a voice through the chaos, calm enough to terrify everyone. Fin here. Don't you? Emma closed her eyes. Relief hit her so violently she almost broke. Enzo grabbed her by the arm and pulled her up. Move. The door burst open before they reached it. Dante stood there, soaked from rain, black shirt torn at the shoulder, blood at his temple, gun lowered at his side. His eyes moved over Emma once wrists, face, breathing, and then settled on Enzo. The room became very quiet. Enzo smiled thinly. You always were impatient. Dante stepped inside. You touched what was mine. Emma's breath caught. Not because the words were gentle, because they were not. They were dangerous, possessive, wrong, and somehow they made every part of her feel safer than she had any right to feel. Enzo pressed a knife against Emma's side. Dante stopped. The stillness that came over him was worse than movement. Let her go, he said. Enzo laughed. You would trade a lot for this florist, wouldn't you? Dante did not answer. Enzo's eyes glittered. Would you trade the ledger? Dante looked at Emma. For 1 second, all the masks dropped. She saw it then. Not softness. Not love. Not yet. Something more terrifying in a man like him. Need. He needed her alive with a desperation he had not given himself permission to name. Yes, Dante said. Emma stared at him. Enzo did too. The great Dante Russo, Enzo murmured. Finally sentimental. Dante's voice remained calm. Take the ledger. Take the accounts. Take the council. But she walks off this boat. Emma's throat burned. You can't, she whispered. Dante did not look away from Enzo. I can. That ledger could destroy them. It can destroy me too. She understood then. The final page, the Russo name, his family, his empire. He was willing to give all of it up. For her. Enzo smiled. Beautiful, but I don't believe you. He shoved Emma toward Mr. Bell and raised the knife. Dante moved. The cabin erupted. Everything happened too fast to follow. Clearly, the crash of bodies into the table, glass shattering, Dante's hand closing around Enzo's wrist. Mr. Bell grabbing Emma from behind, Emma driving her heel into his foot, the old man cursing, the knife skidding across the floor. Emma fell hard. Dante threw Enzo against the wall with a sound that shook the room. Enzo reached for a hidden gun, but Dante caught him and slammed his hand into the polished wood until the weapon dropped. Emma scrambled toward the door. Mr. Bell lunged for her. She grabbed the broken vase from the floor and struck him across the face. He collapsed with a cry, stunned but moving. Dante looked back at the sound. That moment cost him. Enzo pulled a second blade and drove it into Dante's side. Emma screamed. Dante staggered, but he did not fall. He looked down at the blade, then back at Enzo. The expression on his face was not pain. It was inconvenience. He disarmed Enzo with terrifying precision and forced him to his knees. Emma froze in the doorway, shaking. Dante's men flooded the cabin seconds later. Take Belladonna, Dante ordered. His voice was steady, but his shirt was darkening at his side. Emma rushed to him. Don't you? He looked down at her, and for the first time, his face changed because she had said his name like that. I'm fine. You're bleeding. I've had worse. I don't care. His eyes searched hers. Something almost tender moved through them, but he buried it. One of his men approached. Boss, police scanners are active. Coast Guard, in 8 minutes. Dante nodded. Clean exit. No bodies. No noise. Emma pressed her hands against his wound. You need a hospital. No hospitals. You were stabbed. I noticed. This is not the time to be arrogant. His mouth almost curved. Then his knees weakened. Emma caught him as much as she could, but he was too heavy. His hand gripped the wall beside her head. For one dizzying second, they were close enough that she could feel his breath against her cheek. His voice dropped. You hit an old assassin with a vase. He was annoying. Dante's eyes softened despite the blood loss. There she is. The words reached into her chest and touched something fragile. Then his body sagged. Dante. His men moved instantly. The next hours passed in fragments. A stormy harbor, a hidden garage, a private clinic beneath a luxury hotel, white lights, Dante on an operating table behind glass. Emma sitting in a hallway with dried blood on her hands and Knife's carrier beside her, though she had no memory of anyone bringing the cat. Valentina arrived just before dawn. She wore black this time. Emma stood when she saw her. If you came to tell me this is my fault, don't bother. Valentina looked through the glass at Dante. He chose you. Emma's chest tightened. He chose the ledger. No, Valentina said. He chose you on the yacht. Every man there heard it. Emma said nothing. Valentina looked at her then. Really looked. You don't understand what that means. I understand enough. No, you don't. Valentina's voice hardened. Dante has spent 10 years building an empire no one could threaten. Last night, he offered to hand it to Belladonna because you were afraid. Emma looked away. He doesn't love easily, Valentina said. Maybe he doesn't know how. But when Dante Russo decides someone is his to protect, God help the world that tries to take her. Emma's eyes burned. Why are you telling me this? Valentina's gaze returned to Dante. Because Lucia was my sister. The words settled between them. Emma turned. Valentina's face remained composed, but grief moved beneath it like a blade under silk. I blamed him for years, Valentina said. Maybe I still do. But I saw him tonight. He was not trying to save a possession. He was trying not to lose his soul a second time. Emma looked through the glass. Dante lay motionless beneath white sheets, monitors glowing softly around him. Without the suit, without the cold command, he looked almost human, almost breakable. Emma hated how much that hurt. Did he love her? She asked. Valentina was quiet for a long moment. He respected her. He trusted her. He would have married her. She looked at Emma. But I don't think he ever looked at her the way he looks at you. Emma closed her eyes. That was the cruelest thing Valentina could have said. Because Emma wanted to believe it. Dante woke at sunset. Emma was sitting beside his bed, arms crossed, face pale with exhaustion. His eyes opened slowly. He saw her, and the tension in his body eased before he could hide it. You stayed, he said. You were unconscious. It was peaceful. His mouth twitched. She hated the relief that moved through her. Then she remembered. You were going to give Enzo the ledger. Yes. Why? His chaza held hers. You know why. No, I want to hear you say it. Dante looked toward the window. The private clinic overlooked the river. Chicago glittered beyond the glass, beautiful and dangerous, as if nothing had happened. I have spent my life making sure no one could use anything against me, he said. Money, fear, loyalty, violence. I understood all of it. Then you stood in a flower shop surrounded by broken glass and looked at me like I was the worst thing that had ever happened to you. You were standing behind my counter. I was trying to save your life. You bought my building. I panicked. Emma blinked. A laugh almost escaped her. You panicked by buying real estate? Dante looked back at her. I don't panic often. No, clearly, you purchase commercial property. His eyes warmed for half a second. Then the moment faded. I watched you for months because I needed to find your father's ledger. That part is true. At first, you were a problem I had to contain. Emma's chest tightened, but she nodded. And then, she asked. His hand shifted slightly on the sheet, as if he wanted to reach for her but refused himself. Then I saw you open the shop at 5 in the morning after someone threw a brick through your window. I saw you give funeral flowers for free to a woman who couldn't pay. I saw you sit on the floor with that angry cat because she wouldn't eat after surgery. I saw you keep living in a city that had already taken too much from you. Emma's throat closed. Dante's voice roughened. And somewhere between needing the ledger and needing you alive, I lost the ability to tell myself there was a difference. Silence filled the room. Emma looked down. You lied to me. Yes. You used me. Yes. You scared me. I know. And you think saying something beautiful fixes that? No. Good. He nodded once. I don't know how to do this, he said. Do what? Want something without controlling it. The honesty hit harder than any confession. Emma looked at him, at this feared man lying wounded under soft hospital light, still trying to speak like power could protect him from vulnerability. I'm not something, she said. I know. And if you ever treat me like property again, I'll slap you harder. This time, Dante smiled. A real one. Small, dangerous, devastating. I believe you. A knock interrupted them. One of Dante's men entered with a sealed envelope. The basement team found something behind the east wall. Emma stood. Dante tried to sit up. Emma pushed him back with one hand. No. His eyes narrowed. You're injured. I've led meetings with bullet wounds. Congratulations. You're still staying in bed. His man looked at the floor, wisely silent. Dante stared at Emma. Emma stared back. After a long moment, Dante slowly leaned back against the pillow. His man looked like he had just witnessed a miracle. Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph of the basement wall, now broken open. Behind it was a small metal box, and inside the box, according to the photo, was not a ledger. It was a child's music box. Emma's breath caught. My mother had one like that. Dante's expression sharpened. Your mother? Emma nodded slowly. I thought she left. Dante looked at his man. Bring it. The music box arrived an hour later, under armed escort. It was old, silver, with roses engraved across the lid. Emma touched it with shaking fingers. The black key fit a tiny lock at the bottom. When she turned it, the box clicked open. A melody began to play. Soft, familiar, Italian, the song her father used to hum in the basement. Inside, beneath a velvet lining, was a memory card and a folded letter. Emma opened the letter first. Her father's handwriting blurred through tears. My Emma, if you are reading this, then I failed to keep the war buried. Your mother did not abandon you. I sent her away because I loved her, and because she carried the only witness who could prove what the Belladonnas and the Russos did together before the families split. You were never supposed to inherit my sins. The ledger is hidden where flowers go when words are not enough. Trust no one who offers carnations. And if Dante Russo finds you before Enzo does, make him prove he is not his father. Emma lowered the letter. The room was silent. Dante's face had gone white beneath the bruises. His father, Emma whispered. Dante closed his eyes once. My father was the Russo name on the final page. The truth unfolded slowly, brutally. Dante's father, Carlo Russo, had once worked with Enzo Belladonna to move money through legitimate businesses, including Carter Bloom's. Daniel Carter had been the bookkeeper, trusted because he seemed harmless. But when he discovered that Carlo and Enzo were laundering more than money using businesses to hide payments for political assassinations, witness disappearances, and stolen inheritances, he copied everything. Carlo Russo died before Dante took control. Enzo survived, and Daniel Carter hid the evidence before he was murdered. Emma listened without moving. So your father was part of it, she said. Yes. And you knew? I knew enough to suspect, not enough to prove. Her laugh was hollow. That's why you needed the ledger. To clean your family name. Dante's eyes opened. No, to bury it if I had to. The honesty cut. Emma stepped back. At least you admit it. Dante's voice was rough. Before I knew you, yes, I would have buried anything to protect my family. And now, he looked at the letter in her hands. Now I think some names deserve to burn. The memory card required a password. Emma knew before anyone told her. The song, her father's melody, was not just a memory. It was a code. Notes translated to numbers. Numbers to dates. Dates to account files. By midnight, Dante's people had opened the card. The ledger was worse than anyone expected. Names, payments, judges, police commanders, council members, shell companies, offshore accounts. And at the center, signatures from Carlo Russo and Enzo Belladonna. But there was another file. A video. Emma's hands trembled as it began. Her father appeared on screen, older than she remembered, sitting in the basement of the flower shop. Beside him was a woman Emma had not seen since childhood. Her mother. Alive. Emma's breath broke. Dante stood behind her, silent, close, but not touching. On the video, Daniel Carter said, Emma, if you see this, your mother did not leave you. I made the choice for all of us. I thought distance would save you both. Emma covered her mouth. Her mother leaned forward, tears shining in her eyes. My sweet girl, I wanted to come back every day. But Enzo would have used me to find the witness file. Your father made me promise to stay hidden until the ledger could reach someone strong enough to survive using it. The video glitched. Then Daniel said, Dante Russo may come for this one day. I don't know if he will be his father's son or his own man. Let Emma decide. The screen went black. Emma could not breathe. 6 years of grief shifted beneath her feet. Her mother had not abandoned her. Her father had not been only a victim. Dante had not been only a predator. Every truth had teeth. She walked out of the room without speaking. Dante found her on the clinic rooftop. Rain had stopped. The city smelled washed and metallic. Wind pulled loose strands of hair across her face. He stayed several feet away. For once, he did not close the distance. Emma, don't. He stopped. She gripped the rooftop railing. Everyone decided for me. My father. My mother. Enzo. You. Everyone kept secrets because they thought survival was more important than truth. Dante said nothing. I spent 6 years thinking my mother chose to leave me. Do you know what that does to a person? His voice was quiet. Yes. She looked back at him. For a moment, she remembered Lucia. She remembered that he knew exactly what absence did, what guilt did, what ghost did. That made it harder to stay angry. Not impossible, just harder. I don't want your empire, she said. I don't want your war. I want my shop back. Dante nodded. Then we'll get it back. No, I will get it back. You can help if I ask. His expression shifted. Control fought with respect. Respect won. All right. Emma turned fully. And I want Enzo exposed. Not disappeared. Not buried quietly. Exposed. Dante's jaw tightened. That is dangerous. So am I, apparently. He almost smiled. Then he looked at her like she was something he did not know how to hold without breaking. I can do that, he said. What will it cost you? Everything my father built. And you're willing to lose it? Dante walked closer, slowly enough that she could have stepped away. She didn't. He stopped just in front of her. The wind moved between them. I was willing to lose it on a yacht for your life, he said. I can lose it in court for your truth. Her heart hurt. You say things like that and expect me not to feel confused. His eyes lowered to her lips and back. I don't expect anything from you. Liar. His gaze darkened. Yes. The almost touch happened then. His hand lifted slightly, as if he might brush her hair from her face. He stopped before his fingers reached her. Emma watched the restraint cost him. It cost her too. Why did you stop? She whispered. Because if I touch you now, I'm not sure I'll be able to pretend I'm protecting you for noble reasons. Her breath caught. And what are the reasons? His voice dropped. Some are not noble at all. The rooftop door opened behind them. The moment shattered. Dante stepped back immediately. His man stood in the doorway. Boss, Belladonna's making a move. He's called a council meeting tonight, at the old Street Agnes church. Emma turned. A church? Dante's face hardened. Abandoned. Belladonna uses it when he wants men to feel guilty before they lie. Emma looked at the city, then at the memory card in her hand. Then we go. Dante's eyes snapped to hers. No. Yes. Absolutely not. You said I decide. Not when it gets you killed. Emma stepped close enough that his men looked away. You don't get to make me brave only when it's convenient for you. Dunches stared at her, his control frayed at the edges. You think I don't know you're brave? Then act like it. His mouth tightened. For a moment, she thought he would refuse. Then he exhaled slowly. You stay beside me. You do exactly what I say if shooting starts. And if I tell you to run, you run. Emma lifted her chin. If I agree, will you stop arguing? No. Fine. That night, Street Agnes Church looked like something abandoned by God and claimed by men. It stood on the edge of a forgotten industrial district. Its stone walls blackened by age. Its stained glass windows cracked. Its bell tower broken. Black cars filled the lot. Men in suits moved beneath pale floodlights. Rainwater dripped from the roof in steady, mournful lines. Emma wore a black coat over a simple dress Valentina had brought her. The memory card hung beneath her collar on the chain where the brass key used to rest. Dante stood beside her in the back of the SUV, adjusting the cuff of his black shirt, as if he were attending a dinner party. instead of walking into a mafia council with a healing stab wound. "You look calm," Emma said. "I'm not." She glanced at him. He met her eyes. The honesty was quiet, but it reached her. "Because of Enzo?" she asked. "No." Her breath caught. "Because of her." Dante stepped out first. Every head turned when he entered the church. The inside of Street Agnes was lit by candles and old chandeliers. Shadows climbed the walls. Men from different families stood in clusters beneath broken saints. At the altar, Enzo Belladonna waited in a dark suit, with a red carnation pinned to his lapel. His eyes moved from Dante to Emma. He smiled. "She lives." Dante's voice carried through the church. "You sound disappointed." "Only surprised." Emma stepped forward before fear could stop her. Men murmured. A civilian woman walking beside Dante Russo was spectacle enough. A florist walking into a mafia council, with her head high, was something else entirely. Enzo spread his hands. "Miss Carter, your father would be ashamed to see you standing with a Russo." Emma's fingers curled around the memory card beneath her coat. "My father left me a message," she said. "He told me to make Dante prove he wasn't his father." Enzo's smile thinned. "And has he?" Emma looked at Dante. He did not look at her. He watched the room, every threat, every twitch, every hand near a jacket, always protecting before feeling. "Yes," Emma said. "He brought me here." A ripple moved through the church. Enzo laughed. "You think evidence matters here? This is not a courtroom." "No," Emma said. "That's why I didn't send it only to the FBI." Enzo still. Dante looked at her sharply. Emma met his eyes. "I sent it to every journalist my father listed in the ledger. Every federal prosecutor not named in the files. Every widow. Every family. Every witness protection lawyer. Scheduled release in 20 minutes unless I stop it." For the first time since Emma met him, Dante Russo looked genuinely stunned. Then proud. Dangerously proud. Enzo's face darkened. "You stupid girl." Dante moved in front of her. The church temperature seemed to drop. "Say that again." Enzo ignored him, eyes fixed on Emma. "You have no idea what you've done." "I think I do. You just started a war." Emma's voice shook, but did not break. "No, you did. Years ago. I'm ending the part that required silence." Enzo lifted one hand. Men moved. So did Dante's. The church erupted into chaos. Gunfire cracked against stone. Candles toppled. Men shouted. Emma ducked as Dante pulled her behind a broken pillar, his body shielding hers from the open aisle. Dust rained from the ceiling. A stained glass saint shattered above them, blue and red fragments falling like frozen fire. Dante pressed her into the stone. "Stay down. You're bleeding again." "Not the point." "You keep saying that when it is very much the point." Despite everything, his eyes flashed. Then a bullet struck the pillar near her head. Dante changed. He turned from man to storm. He moved Emma behind two guards and stepped into the aisle with the lethal calm of someone who had been born for violence and had spent the entire story trying to keep her from seeing it. Emma saw enough. She saw men hesitate when Dante advanced, saw Enzo's confidence fracture, saw Valentina appear near the side entrance with Russo loyalists who clearly had not chosen Enzo, saw the balance of power tilt. But Enzo was not aiming for Dante. He was aiming for her. Emma saw him through smoke and candlelight, raising a gun from behind the altar. Dante's back was turned. Her body moved before fear could stop it. "Dante!" She ran. Dante turned at the sound of her voice. Enzo fired. Dante caught her mid-stride and spun them both behind the altar, taking the impact against his shoulder with a sharp, controlled grunt. Emma hit the floor beneath him. For 1 second, the world narrowed to his face above hers. Pain broke through his mask. Not fear for himself. Fear for her. He touched her cheek with bloodless fingers. "Did it hit you?" "No." "Emma." "No, I'm okay." His forehead lowered for 1 second, almost touching hers. It was not a kiss. It was worse. It was relief so intimate, it felt like a confession. Then Enzo ran. Dante pushed himself up, but Emma grabbed him. "No. He'll disappear. Let the files go public." His eyes burned. "He tried to kill you. And if you chase him bleeding, he wins." Dante froze. Emma held his chaza. "Choose me alive," she whispered. "Not revenge." Those words struck him harder than any bullet. The church roared around them, but Dante stayed still, caught between the man he had always been and the man he was becoming because of her. Then he lowered his weapon. "All right," he said. The words were quiet. They changed everything. 15 minutes later, the first news alerts hit. By midnight, Enzo Belladonna's empire was on every screen in America. By dawn, federal raids swept across Chicago, New York, Miami, and parts of Sicily. Judges resigned before they were arrested. Police commanders vanished from offices. Councilmen denied everything on camera with terrified eyes. The Belladonna family fractured in public. And the Russo name burned too. Dante did not hide it. He gave the files over. All of them, including his father's. The city called it the biggest organized crime exposure in decades. Reporters camped outside Carter Bloom's, outside the courthouse, outside the private clinic where Dante refused to stay longer than one night. Emma did not give interviews. She went home to her shop. The windows were replaced. The shelves rebuilt. The bullet holes patched. Dante paid for everything without asking, and Emma argued with him for 3 days, until he finally let her choose the contractor. The bodyguards remained. At first, they stood outside like a wall. Then Emma taught one of them how to trim rose stems properly. Another learned how to carry wedding arrangements without crushing them. A third, a massive man named Marco, became Knife's favorite person in the world, which offended Emma deeply. Dante did not return to the shop for 8 days. Emma told herself that was good. She told herself space was healthy, necessary, sensible. She hated every second of it. On the 9th evening, Rain returned to Chicago. Emma was closing alone, though 3 guards stood outside and Knife slept in the front window between 2 potted orchids. She flipped the sign to closed and turned around. Dante stood across the street beneath the red neon glow. No umbrella, black coat wet from the rain. Not coming in, just watching, like the first secret version of him. The man who had guarded her from the dark without permission. Emma opened the door. The bell above it chimed softly. "Are you going to stand there all night?" she called. Dante crossed the street. He stopped at the threshold. That surprised her. "You can come in," she said. His eyes moved to the repaired window, the flowers, the counter where he had stood the night he bought her world. "I wasn't sure I still had permission." Emma's chest tightened. "Since when do you care about permission?" "Since you." The rain filled the silence. Emma stepped back. Dante entered. He looked different, still dangerous, still controlled. Still the kind of man the world would never mistake for safe. But something had shifted. He no longer looked like a man standing inside a place he owned. He looked like a man hoping not to be asked to leave. Emma moved behind the counter and picked up a single white rose. "Your men are ruining my sidewalk. They're protecting it. They scare customers. They bought 12 arrangements today. They don't count." Marco sent flowers to his mother. Emma paused. "Really?" Dante nodded. "That's annoyingly sweet. I'll reprimand him." She looked down to hide her smile. When she looked up again, Dante was closer. "Not too close. Careful. Always careful now. I'm leaving Chicago for a while," he said. The words hit harder than she expected. "Why?" "The Russo organization is being dismantled. Legally, publicly, violently in some places. I need to make sure the men who want clean lives get them, and the ones who don't never come near you." End of T8. ITA. 2. 2. 2. End of 2. Emma swallowed. "For how long?" "I don't know." She nodded, pretending that did not carve through her. "Good luck." Dante's face tightened slightly. That gave her a cruel little satisfaction. He reached into his coat and placed something on the counter. A property deed. Emma stared at it. Carter Bloom's. Transferred fully into Emma Carter's name. No loans, no conditions, no hidden clauses. Her throat closed. "You bought my building," she said. "Yes. And now you're giving it back." "No," Dante said. "It was never mine." Emma touched the paper with trembling fingers. "You don't fix everything with grand gestures. I know. You can't buy forgiveness. I know. You can't just walk away and decide that's noble." Dante went still. Emma looked up. There it was, the wound beneath the suit. "I thought that was what you wanted," he said. "I wanted a choice." His eyes held hers. "And now?" Emma walked around the counter slowly. Dante did not move. She stopped in front of him, close enough to see rain caught in his eyelashes. "Now I'm choosing to be angry at you in person." Something broke across his face. Not a smile. Not relief. Something deeper. "I don't know how to be good for you," he said. Emma's voice softened. "I didn't ask you to be good." His eyes darkened. I asked you to be honest. Dante looked at her for a long time. Then he said, I am still dangerous. I know. I will still want to protect you in ways you hate. I know. I will still want to destroy anyone who frightens you. You'll have to work on that. I will fail. Probably. His mouth curved faintly. Emma stepped closer. His hand lifted, then stopped, hovering near her face. Still asking without words. This time, Emma closed the distance herself. She took his hand and placed it against her cheek. Dante inhaled once, sharply, like the touch hurt. His palm was warm, careful, reverent in a way no one who feared him would believe. Outside, rain covered the windows. Inside, the flower shop smelled of roses and fresh beginnings. Dante leaned down slowly, giving her time to turn away. She didn't. Their kiss was not soft at first. It was restrained for half a second, then ruined by everything they had survived. Fear, anger, grief, longing, betrayal, blood, rain, and the unbearable relief of being alive. Dante kissed her like a man who had spent years refusing to need anything, and had finally lost the war. Emma kissed him back like a woman who had been running from ghosts, and finally turned around. When they parted, his forehead rested against hers. I should still leave, he whispered. Yes, Emma said. His eyes closed. For how long? She smiled faintly. Until tomorrow morning. Then you can come help me unload peonies. Dante opened his eyes. Peonies? Yes. I've ended wars with less fear. You should be afraid. They bruise easily. For the first time, Dante Russo laughed inside Carter Bloom's. It was quiet, rusted, almost unfamiliar to him, but real. Weeks later, the shop reopened fully. The media moved on, as media always did. The city rebuilt its lies around newer scandals. The Belladonna name became a cautionary tale. Enzo disappeared into federal custody behind sealed doors. Valentina took over what remained of legitimate family holdings and sent Emma a bouquet of white lilies with no note. Dante changed slowly. Not into a gentle man. Never that. He still entered rooms like a storm warning. Men still lowered their voices when he passed. His enemies still existed, though fewer dared come close. But he no longer wore loneliness like armor. Quite so perfectly. Some evenings, he sat in the back of the flower shop while Emma worked, reading files from his new legal businesses, knife sleeping shamelessly on his coat. Sometimes Emma caught him watching the door, the street, the shadows. Sometimes she touched his hand and brought him back. He never said he was afraid. He didn't have to. One winter night, months after the shooting, snow began falling over Chicago. Emma stood outside Carter Bloom's after closing, looking at the new sign above the door. The gold letters glowed softly against the dark glass. Inside, the shop was full of white roses for a wedding the next morning. Dante came up behind her and draped his black coat over her shoulders without asking. She should have scolded him. Instead, she slipped her arms into the sleeves. You know, she said, the first night you stood behind my counter, I thought you were the worst thing that could happen to me. Dante looked at the sign. You were almost right. Emma turned to him. Snow landed in his dark hair. The city glowed around them. Softer than it had any right to be. And now? He asked. She studied him, the feared man, the dangerous man, the man who had bought her building, lied to her, saved her, bled for her, lost an empire for her, and learned, painfully, how to stand at the door and wait to be invited in. Now, she said, I think you were the storm that forced all the ghosts out. Dante's expression changed. Carefully, as if she were something sacred and volatile, he took her hand. Emma Carter, he said quietly. I am still not a safe man. She squeezed his fingers. I know. I may never be. I didn't fall in love with safe. The words escaped before she could take them back. Dante went completely still. The city seemed to hold its breath with him. Emma's cheeks warmed, but she did not look away. There had been a time when silence meant fear between them. Now it meant something else. Something alive. Something waiting. Dante lifted her hand to his mouth and kissed her knuckles with a tenderness that felt more dangerous than all his violence. I have loved you since the moment you slapped me, he said. Emma laughed softly, even as tears filled her eyes. That is deeply concerning. I know. You smiled. I was doomed. She stepped into him, and this time there was no gunfire, no broken glass, no secrets pressing against the walls. Just snow, roses, city lights, and a man who had once filled her flower shop with bodyguards because he did not know how to say he was terrified of losing her. Dante wrapped his arms around her carefully, still holding back the strength the world feared. Emma rested her head against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Steady. Real. Hers. Across the street, one black SUV waited under the streetlight. But for once, it did not feel like a threat. It felt like part of the scenery, a dark reminder that the world beyond the roses was still dangerous, still watching, still full of men who mistook love for weakness. They would learn. Dante Russo had lost an empire for Emma Carter, and if the world ever came for her again, it would discover that devotion, in the hands of a dangerous man, could be more terrifying than power. Inside Carter Blooms, the white roses opened slowly in the warmth. Outside, snow covered the last scars of broken glass. And in the middle of a city that had tried to bury every truth, the florist and the Mafia Boss stood beneath the glowing sign of her shop, holding each other like the storm had finally ended, not because the darkness was gone, but because they had learned how to face it together.